In 1977, humanity launched a message in a bottle. Voyager 1, a spacecraft powered by nuclear heat, armed with a golden record, and carrying our voice into the deep unknown. It was built to last 5 years, yet here we are nearly 50 years later, and it's still out there, still drifting, still sending signals back from a place no human has ever seen. But recently something changed. After months of erratic behavior, failures, and silence, Voyager 1 came back online. And the new data it returned, confused, corrupted, and strangely timed, may have just confirmed what many feared for years. That the edge of the solar system isn't a border, it's a threshold. And crossing it may have consequences we're only beginning to understand. At the start of 2024, engineers at NASA noticed something wrong with Voyager 1. The spacecraft's telemetry began to fall apart. Streams of data came back as nothing but ones and zeros, completely random and meaningless. The source of the issue, its FDS, or Flight Data System, had stopped communicating properly with the telemetry system. This system is the brain behind every scientific measurement Voyager takes, so without it, the spacecraft had gone blind. NASA attempted a series of standard recovery maneuvers. None worked. Days turned into weeks, then months. The team feared the worst, that this iconic probe, more than 15 billion miles from Earth, had finally succumbed to the void. The mission was declared nearly lost, with only a slim hope for recovery. But in one of the most daring technical moves ever attempted, engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory redirected Voyager's commands through backup pathways, circuits and systems that hadn't been used in over 4 decades. Then, slowly, something incredible happened. A signal returned. Not just static, but recognizable data. The FDS had been partially reawakened. But what it sent back wasn't just science. It was a riddle. Something was off. The probe had survived, but what it recorded, that's what truly disturbed the team. Long before the system failure, Voyager 1 had already been detecting something unusual, a persistent low-frequency hum around 3 Hz, steady and constant. Scientists eventually realized it wasn't noise. It was plasma, interstellar plasma, vibrating across the edge of the solar system. By mapping these frequencies over time, Voyager helped researchers build a kind of sound map of the void, showing how the density and pressure of space fluctuated. But there was a problem. The hum wasn't behaving as expected. Recent data showed the hum growing louder, more concentrated, more defined, as if something out there was changing the environment itself. In fact, Voyager began picking up strange variations in plasma density, suggesting an external force was pressing against the boundaries of our system. Some speculated that a solar flare might be to blame, but when they compared this data to a similar flare from 2012, the differences were dramatic. Something had changed. Either space itself was reacting to Voyager's presence, or the probe had drifted into a region that no model had ever predicted, a region that pulses, shifts, and remembers. Then came the collapse. Voyager 1's systems began failing one by one. It wasn't just hardware decay, the sequence was too bizarre. First the FDS corrupted. Then the spacecraft began transmitting nonsense. Then, inexplicably, it activated its fault protection system, a built-in emergency protocol designed to protect the spacecraft during extreme threat. But here's the thing, no threat had been detected. And it didn't happen once, it happened multiple times. Each time the system kicked in, Voyager would reduce its transmission rate, lowering its energy output, essentially shutting itself down piece by piece. Eventually, even NASA's most powerful antennas, Madrid, Canberra, and California, could no longer receive a clear signal. Some experts feared the mission was finally over. But one last attempt was made, a blind command sent to activate a transmitter that hadn't been used since 1981. It was a desperate shot in the dark, like trying to reach a ghost through an old, forgotten phone line. And then, incredibly, it worked. A signal came through. Voyager had heard us. It responded. But the real mystery remained. why did it fail in the first place? And what did it see out there that caused it to shut itself down? Since this chain of failures and resets began, theories have exploded across scientific and fringe communities alike. Some suggest Voyager passed through a region of intense dark matter, interfering with its systems in ways we can't yet model. Others believe the probe entered a space where gravity, magnetism, or even time behaves differently. A few go further, claiming Voyager's systems were intentionally triggered by something out there, that its path crossed into a zone not designed for observation, and that the resulting disruptions were not accidents, but warnings. NASA officially has no explanation. They've acknowledged the recovery of contact but have not fully addressed the strange cascade of events that preceded it. Meanwhile, Voyager 1 continues its journey, now over 24.7 billion kilometers from Earth. Still drifting, still transmitting, still carrying humanity's message into the dark. But now, with every new signal, there's a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, someone or something might be listening. In the early days of the Voyager missions, nearly every transmission, discovery, and anomaly was shared with the public. But over time, especially in the last decade, that openness has faded. With Voyager 1 now far beyond the Sun's protective influence, researchers began noticing a pattern. Fewer raw datasets, delayed updates, and internal logs that once appeared in public-facing archives suddenly vanishing. Some of the readings from its magnetometer and cosmic ray detectors, which had been shared regularly for years, became sporadic. Then came the most unusual move of all. Access to some Voyager engineering reports was quietly restricted. No explanation given. Those watching closely, independent astronomers, researchers, and deep space signal analysts, have raised alarms. Why would one of the most celebrated missions in human history become more secretive at the exact moment it's encountering the most unfamiliar region of space? The answer might be obvious. Maybe Voyager's recent transmissions aren't just technically sensitive, they're existentially sensitive. Because if what Voyager is experiencing challenges not just engineering, but everything we believe about what lies beyond, then perhaps the data is being kept back not for scientific reasons, but for stability. For decades, physicists suspected that the boundary between our solar system and interstellar space was a chaotic, undefined zone. But Voyager 1's long-term readings suggest something far more structured, something now referred to by a handful of researchers as the cosmic firewall. This firewall isn't physical in the traditional sense. There's no hard surface, no wall of dust or plasma. But it behaves like a membrane, one that resists penetration and behaves differently depending on the velocity and energy of objects that approach it. Voyager's velocity has been consistent, and yet its trajectory has faced disturbances. Subtle decelerations, data latency beyond what light speed delay accounts for, and directional drift. Some speculate this firewall is the edge of a containment field, a natural or artificial boundary designed to isolate star systems from each other. Others suggest it might be the last layer of the heliosphere reacting to an intrusion it wasn't built to handle. Either way, Voyager may first have done something unprecedented. It pressed against the limit of cosmic permission. And now that pressure is being felt, on the spacecraft and on us. In a newly released analysis of decades of data, scientists noticed something else. Something Voyager wasn't designed to find, but stumbled upon anyway. Across multiple plasma wave readings and magnetometer spikes, recurring patterns began to emerge. Not patterns that matched the solar wind or galactic currents, but geometric alignments, sequences of values that reflected harmonic intervals. These patterns weren't perfect, but they were consistent, repeating every few 100,000 kilometers like cosmic markers. At first, they were brushed off as coincidences. But as more data arrived, and analysts compared it with Voyager 2's older logs, the same wave structures appeared, just in different locations and different strength. This suggested a possibility both fascinating and disturbing, that space itself might not be as chaotic as we've believed. that beyond the stars and gas clouds lies an underlying order, a kind of deep cosmic lattice that we're only beginning to detect. And if Voyager 1 has begun mapping it, intentionally or not, then we may have just stepped into a greater structure that has rules of its own. Voyager 1 was built in a different time. It carried no weapons, no warning systems, just a golden record, a message of peace drifting into silence. But now, nearly 50 years later, that silence has broken. And what it returned isn't just data. It's a signal, a change, a confirmation of what we all suspected deep down. That space isn't just empty. It's structured, layered, aware. From the low-frequency hum to the gravitational anomalies, from the plasma pulses to the cosmic firewall, Voyager's journey is no longer just about exploration, it's about revelation. We didn't just cross a boundary. We crossed a threshold, one that might not have been meant to be crossed. And now, as the spacecraft continues to drift, not just observed, but perhaps observing, we're left with a truth far bigger than any mission plan could contain. The universe is not passive. The edge of the solar system is not silent. And Voyager may first have just knocked on a door that was never meant to be opened. So now we ask you, was this the beginning of something greater, or the first warning from something far older? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe there are still messages out there, buried in the static, hidden in the void, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because we're not done listening. The stars are whispering. And next time, we might not be the only ones to hear.